Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Willow Talk. Adam Peacock here with a special guest from India. No, it's not Brad Haddin. We've bumped him out the way, but we've got someone from the team that he's coaching at the moment. And he's a guy that goes all right at cricket. Well, almost 300 test wickets says so. We've got South African superstar Kagiso Rabada joining us right now. KG, sipping on a tea over there in early morning India. Thank you so much for joining us on Willow Talk. How's the IPL been so far for you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to chat some cricket. And the IPL has been pretty exciting this year. There's been lots of runs being scored and a lot of debates around the rules of the game. You know, the rules that have come in, like the impact player and the two bounces. And it's been rather interesting to see how people are talking about how to be most effective and the team's different strategies, etc., etc. But it's been really fun. Always high pressure, and the traveling as well is always good. Sometimes can get a bit much. But we're here for the cricket, and it's been good so far.
Well, mate, on this podcast, our chat to you, we're pumped about it, but we're also getting the full cultural experience. You're in a communal area of the hotel, and we've got the music from a local artist, I do believe, up there in the north of India, perhaps. I'm not sure, but no, we're getting that through. So that's what you can hear in the background. We don't care. We're talking to our man KG here.
No, it's actually off. It's actually off now. It's actually off now, so we're good.
Oh, it's turned it off. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, we had the backing track, but no, we're good with that. We can hear you in full clarity right now. When I asked about the IPL, also your experience with Punjab, more importantly, how's the experience with your assistant coach going? My fellow co-host here, usually in Brad Haddin, is he behaving himself?
Yeah, I think he hasn't done anything out of the ordinary. I don't know too much about what's happening behind the scenes. Dealing with certain team affairs, etc., etc. But I'm sure it's all going well. Other than that, I think it's been quite interesting to have a word with Brad just on the game. Obviously, he's a very experienced individual. He's played cricket, for Australia at the highest level, in all formats, and he's done it for a number of years. And it's always interesting to get a different perspective on the game. And his mind is full of different ideas, and it's those are ideas that you actually have to consider, quite seriously, or at least listen very thoroughly to what he has to say, because of his experience and the work that he's done in the game. And you can never stop learning. At the same time, keeping it as simple as possible, and not trying to get too much into your head, but always opening your ear out to different perspectives is ultimately what will make you grow as a player. So from that point of view, drawing in the experience that he's got and looking at the different angles that he sees the game at has been really interesting and enjoyable.
Yeah, and I've learnt so much, and our listeners have as well, about Brad, but we don't want to let him get a big head. I mean, have you brought up, researching this chat with your good self, you described your perfect bowler at cricket.com.au a few years ago, and you said the one thing I'd love to have as an outswinger is Dale Stein's outswinger, and they used the highlight. It happened a few times to Hads that he just decided to play him through the onside, and next thing you knew, he's off stumps out of the ground. Have you brought up his, interesting battles with Dale Steyn by any chance? Because that could bring him down a peg or two.
I haven't, but he has shared a couple of stories. But no, I haven't spoken to him about that. Maybe at practice today I'll do so, and let's hear what he says.
Yeah, just say to him, Hads, Is my outswinger looking like Dale Staines at the moment? Because you know exactly what it looks like when it goes past your bat. But anyway, I'll leave that to you, how you frame it, mate. Bring it up. But overall, you mentioned it before about how it feels like the first half of this IPL anyway, was so different because bat was dominating ball. You've got to this point with 11 wickets in 11 matches. I'm sure you'd want a few more polls, but your economy rate is under 9, which is going pretty well in the modern day. How have you tried to approach games at the moment? Because, yeah, as I said, that first half, it was ridiculous. It was 270s, scores of 280s almost, happening semi-regularly. How's it been for a bowler?
Luckily, we were involved in one game that was where I think it was 530 odd runs got scored in that game, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, something like that. That was against Kolkata, and all our other games haven't been too high scoring. They've been around about 170 to 200, and so luckily we haven't been involved in too many big scoring matches. But if I had to look at the way that batters are batting at the moment, especially in India, the conditions do favor batting and small grounds, and the wickets are quite placid. So they either sit in the wicket or you just don't get as much bounce. So as a fast bowler, you have to be pretty innovative, but at the same time keeping it simple. But having said that, there are bowlers who have been incredibly successful, and that's one of them is Jasprit Bumrah, who's been performing like an absolute demon. But you look at certain attributes that certain bowlers have, and some bowlers are bounce bowlers, and some bowlers are skiddier, and you just have to ask yourself, what suits the conditions the best. In India, you'd probably say, that with not many wickets having too much bounce in them, you'd probably say they're skiddier bowlers. But at the same time, you have to actually find a way to perform. And 11 wickets in 11 games, if I look at the way that I've been preparing and the way that I've been going about it, I wouldn't say that I could, do too much different. It's either it goes your way or it doesn't. There've been a lot of IPL seasons where I feel like I was preparing the same. I was feeling pretty decent, but I would have a whole lot more wickets. Whereas, this tournament, it's showing 1 wicket per game, but you can't really judge. You can't really take the results and use them as a complete analysis to tell yourself whether you were performing absolutely well or not. Sometimes you just have to look at the way that you're going about the process, and I feel like I've been going decently. I know that I can improve though.
What about, have you noticed the performances of some of your soon-to-be South African teammates again? T20 World Cup just around the corner. Obviously, the preliminary squads have been named around the world. A lot of talk down here about Jake Fraser-McGurk not quite making our 15 at the moment. But are you keeping tabs on your mates from South Africa and how they're doing and how you're shaping up? You're gonna break through for that elusive ICC trophy as a senior team?
Oh man, we get asked that all the time. That's the only thing that's missing. But to answer your first question, I think, the guys are going pretty well. At the IPL as well, sometimes it can be real fickle. You have a string of 2 bad performances or average performances, and you might not be playing. But you definitely look at this IPL and look at it as prep for the ICC T20 World Cup. But at the same time, once you get together as a team, things change. once you get together as a team and you're playing for your country, things do change a little bit. You're no longer at the IPL. But yeah, I think we would love to win and break this so-called curse that South Africa has at World Cups. And if once one team does it, then in future generations it'll just keep coming. I believe that for sure.
Yeah.
And so let's see what happens.
Next week, mate, on our podcast, we're actually doing a look back at the 1999 World Cup. Now, you were 4. You weren't even in school shorts, or you might have been. You might have gone early. But just for you, we'll try and skip over that semi-final a bit quickly with the tie that happened with Australia and South Africa. We won't go into it. Just talking of memories, 10 years ago, you went to an under-19 World Cup and you ripped through Australia in a semi-final. Took 6 for not long after, make your test debut. It all happened really quickly for you. Those who saw it and appreciated you as an under-19 World Cup star went, well, this guy's going to be big time real soon. But with the experience that you got now, how would you feel that you dealt with that, transitioning so quickly and as a young man having to act like a experienced man in Test cricket?
I felt like, when I played at under 19 level, I saw it as a big opportunity to basically like announce myself, to the world. But as soon as I started playing international cricket, I always felt like, all I want to become is the best. And that's what was actually motivating me, is to just be the best and be the best that I can and put in big performances for my team and for us to come out on the winning side. So it was that's all that was driving me. Everything else was kind of irrelevant. Yes, you would feel the pressure, but then it's better off feeling the pressure and knowing what you're playing for. And I think that's what sort of got me through. I just backed myself. I really just backed myself. And that's what it's about. It's about backing yourself and wanting to test yourself against the best players in the world and looking at all the great players who have come in the past and wanting to emulate them. I think that's what was really driving me. And yeah, I'm just glad to see that things went on the way that they did. And hopefully they can keep going that way.
Yeah, well, 291 wickets at 22 and a strike rate of 40 is pretty handy, mate. They're numbers, but they don't define your numbers, but they tell a decent story when you want to put it that way. Who are the ones that set you on your way then, that welcomed you in to that arena? And I don't know if you want to use the term mentor, but people who put an arm around you and got the best out of you, because it sounds like you adapted really quickly.
I think I was really fortunate that, I had parents who believed in me and believed in my dream. I think for me, they were my biggest mentors, my family and the close people around me. But when it comes to the team, getting into the team, everyone was really supportive. And I just remember playing with AB de Villiers, and Dale Steyn, Morne Walker, Vernon Fernanda. I'd say the bowlers that I learned the most from would probably be, Morne Walker and Vernon Fernanda. When it comes to them sharing quite a lot of knowledge. Dale would share knowledge, but for me, like I gained more just by observing what he did and just observing what all these players did, whether it be at their practice or whether it be in the game. And you're sort of surrounded by excellence, and when you're surrounded by it, then you almost do things in a similar fashion. But yeah, I was there's just too many players to mention. I mean, that team that I got into when I was young, it was really a remarkable team. It was a phenomenal team. what a way to start.
Yeah. You mentioned one name there, and later on I was going to save this question about where our listeners love stories about what happens at net sessions because we don't see, obviously. We see what happens out in the middle. But AB de Villiers, you mentioned that name there. So bowling as a young player, new to the team, and we hear that AB, literally, he could pick up any sport and be very good at it straight away. So I can't imagine what it's like, his chosen craft being cricket and batting, having to bowl to him in the nets. Did he put you in your place early, or did you want to test yourself, even though it's a net session, to go at him a bit?
Yeah, I actually remember when I just come from a SAA tour. We're touring Australia. We're playing a try series against Australia and India back in 2014, and we played in Darwin and we played in Townsville, and that same year, towards the end of that A tour, I remember being called up to do like an internship with the South African team in Zimbabwe, and in Zimbabwe, Australia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe were playing a try series, and I just remember being extremely excited. I was like, man, I can't wait to be around these guys and to bowl at them in the nets. And I remember bowling to AB in the nets. The nets were a bit spicy, and he'll probably not like what I'm about to say, but I got him out in the nets, and I was just trying to bowl as fast as I can. And then after that, I think he was like, nah, I can't let this youngster do this. And he just absolutely smashed me. Then he started coming down the wicket, giving himself room, started doing everything possible. And I just loved that. I will never forget that.
And am I guessing that the harder he was trying to hit you, you were trying to bowl a bit quicker, and then it just became this outrageous battle between bat and ball, even though it was a net?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what happened, and I'm sure he'll remember it. If I had to say, I'd probably say the battle was even.
I dare say maybe all these years on, maybe still got some of the bruising on an inner thigh or something like that if you got through that bat of his. Did you?
I think I'll never forget that moment, but I think I bowled him. I tried to bowl him a Yorker, and I think he inside edged it onto his foot. So I think that's the closest thing to discomfort that he felt. But I'm not sure how much of that moment he would have, or he must remember. But I'm sure he remembers quite a bit of it.
I bet he does. No, thank you for relaying that little anecdote. Just overall in Test cricket, is it still the pinnacle for you're closing in, and it feels like a big number, 300, and it is. It's an enormous achievement, and you're not going to stop there, no doubt. But is Test cricket still on a different level for you for the other stuff, or is it purely whatever it is in a South African uniform, white ball, red ball?
I think Test cricket is the pinnacle. I think that's where cricket comes from. That's where all the other formats come from. Without Test cricket, there aren't all these other formats. And as much as you enjoy playing T20 cricket and ODI cricket, I definitely think that Test cricket is the pinnacle. I think it just tests you in so many ways, and you have to prove your skill over a length of time, and it just tests everything. It tests your endurance, your resilience. It tests your cricket IQ, but mainly it's about resilience, and it's about I guess it tests your patience too, but it just tests a whole lot. It tests you physically, and if you can't step up to the challenge, then you'll come out on the losing side, and that's just how it is. I think that's what makes it Test cricket. And growing up, I just remember seeing all the greatest players playing Test cricket, and about Test cricket being talked about in a high vein. And the Virat Kohli is right there. He's dancing. I'm on a podcast. It's called Willow Talk.
Tell him to come and say hello.
In Australia. Hello, boys.
Hello, sir.
You're right.
Boy,
Well,
KG
not a
here.
lot. How are you going? Yeah. How is he as a bowler?
Keep blabbering like I always do by myself.
Nah, he thinks I'm a weak bowler.
Oh,
Really?
yeah, right.
Thanks.
Pleasure to see you. Come back
There we
anytime,
go.
Virat. Come
That's a
back
pretty-
anytime.
That's a pretty cool guest on your show.
Yeah, well, mate, it's your show now. You can bring in any guest you want if you're gonna get some guests like that on it. What's it like to bowl to him? I talked about AB before, but while he's in the room and within earshot, what's it like to bowl to him?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much I should say right now because he's like right there. But brilliant. I think when it comes to all formats, I would say probably the toughest batter, the most consistent as well. Real good, very good defense, and can apply pressure in many ways, whether it's finesse, whether it's power game. Not a huge power game, but a very decent power game. And just the hunger for runs. It's always a great challenge playing against players like that. They just seem to have all the bases covered. And whatever format it is, it's the same thing, and without really overcomplicating things. It's just simple cricket shots executed to the highest level, and that concentration for long periods of time. I think that's what makes it extremely tough bowling at him as well. Is just the willingness to be in the battle. I don't think you can buy that. Certain players have it and certain players don't. And the willingness to want that contest and to come out on top, and no matter how things are going, just to keep doing it over and over again.
That's a very respectful and true answer. Maybe if you're an Australian and you wanted to, take the piss, as we say down here, you could have just yelled out across the room right there, "He's my bunny." But no one is Virat Kohli's bunny in this modern day of cricket. And thank you for relaying what it's like to bowl to him, because I can't imagine it's an easy process. We were talking about Test cricket. Are you thankful this year that the SA20, and it was reported correctly down here that you guys who missed the tour to New Zealand to play Test cricket, you had to do it because it is such an important thing for South African cricket in terms of getting some revenue in, and then you guys had to play that. Unfortunately missed the Test tour, but it must be a relief to you that the calendar this time around means there'll be no choices like that to make, be it by you or administrators.
Yeah, I mean, that was really unfortunate. It really was. But not to harp on it too much about it, because I had an interview about it and it went out in the press again, and it just seemed like I was just opening up old wounds. Without getting into it too much, I think it was a mistake and it shouldn't happen again. That's it. It's as simple as that. But
Full
also,
stop.
Full stop. The SA20 is huge for South African cricket. That's where the game is headed, and T20 cricket has done that for franchises where they have the ability, to earn some good money. And if you're earning money, it means that you can grow the game of cricket in the country, and it means you can unearth more talent, and the game has a better chance of surviving, not just surviving, but rather thriving. Especially in a country like South Africa, where there are a lot of people who are disadvantaged. And if you look at the game of cricket is quite an expensive game. Football is the number one sport in the world because all you need is a round ball. Whereas cricket, you need a whole lot more. And for the development of the game, some money needs to be spent on all those necessities that are required, and also the coaching for the skill. the skill set of the players. So the SA20, I guess, with Cricket South Africa having ownership of it, it will go a long way in terms of generating revenue, which then can be used for the development of the game. That's why the SA20 is important, but without compromising Test cricket and making a double booking. I say that's just the only thing that needs to change.
I get it, mate. I totally get it because, like you spoke before about that experience you had as a young player, Townsville, Darwin, and A Tour. Those things don't happen out of thin air. There's revenue needed to pay for those things, develop cricketers, and end up like your good self. We're going to take a short little spell here on Willow Talk. Back in a moment. What are your thoughts on the best bowlers in the world? And I got something here about team parties at Punjab with shirts off, and I want to know if Hads gets the rig out. So we're back in a sec. Hold that thought, KG. You're in the conversation, but you're a very humble man, so you won't say yourself, I dare say. But the best fast bowlers in the world, who's on your podium at the moment? Who do you look up to?
Well, Jasprit Bumrah, Josh Hazlewood, Mohammad Shami, Pat Cummins, Trent Bolt.
The big podium.
It is. Okay, so you're saying top 5?
Oh, you can name as many as you want. You're the guest.
So I've got 5.
Tell you what to do.
I've got 5 at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'll add in Shaheen Shah Afridi.
Yeah.
And this is like the generation that's like succeeded from the past generation. But the reason why I say those names, there are a lot of other names, but the reason why I say those names, along with Mitchell Stark too, is that bowling, if you do it year in, year out, and you're playing a lot, and you prove yourself for a long period, and you're actually playing a lot, I think that's what makes you, a really good bowler. If you look at, Jimmy Anderson, I'll say Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, and them, but I'm mentioning this generation that's about to be the generation of this generation, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you, around your age and experience, yeah.
Around my age
Over
and
50
experience.
Tests, all of that, yep.
That's it. There we go. And I think when you're playing a lot of cricket, as a fast bowler, you're not always going to bowl at the same intensity. So I feel like if you play one tournament here and there, and then you do well, it's not the same as playing consistently and having consistent performances year in, year out. And I think that that plays a huge part in fast bowling. If you can't do that, and I don't really know if you can be on that podium per se. With respect to other bowlers, there's some young and upcoming fast bowlers and the fast bowling talent. Even if you look in South Africa, I mean, it's extremely exciting. Love to see it. And there are bowlers out there, no disrespect to other bowlers, this is the fast bowlers union. But my top 6 are those that I've just mentioned not so long ago. Because of that very reason. Yes, they are good. They've got the skill. They got the temperament, but they keep playing year in, year out, and they're just consistent. It's not like there's a long break and then they come and you're fresh and you can make a mark and then you just disappear again and you come back on the scene. So, and sometimes it can be unfortunate for other players. And they're not in control of it. Injury has to play a big role in that. And it can be a dark place for some players, and you have to acknowledge that. But if I'm being frank about what I feel the attributes that make a good fast bowler, that would have to be it.
Pat Cummins, do you get on well with Pat? Speaking of players who have gone through adversity, he had He had stress fractures for about 6 years there that kept him off the test scene after his debut in South Africa. Not sure if you watched that as a young man, but Pat, do you get on well with him? You always converse, or is this Australia-South Africa rival where you want to knock each other's block off and get on top of each other, kind of keep it at a little bit of a distance?
Yeah, maybe on the field, yeah, but not off the field. Off the field, it's all good. When chatting to I've got Nathan Ellis over here, and we get along. Pat Cummins, we'll get along. We played together at Delhi Daredevils back in 2017. We got along there. There'll always be competitive streak in the relationship, but that's mostly on the field. Off the field, you learn that it's not that deep, but on the field, I think it's deep on the field.
Big smile on your face. So the ones that the Kings with the bat at the moment that you've dismissed. So Kohli 5 times in 13 tests. I'll whisper it so he doesn't overhear it right now. Steve Smith, you got 4 times out in 9. Joe Root 4 in 12. Kane Williamson 3 and 5. It's a hard one to split this, mate. But the one that maybe offers up a huge challenge for you that you've not so much. They all offer up a huge challenge, but you've had to delve into yourself as much as possible to figure out a way to get on top of them. About, okay, plan A might not have worked. What's plan B, C, D, all of that? Have you got one of those batters that have really got into your head?
I feel like all top batters have a way of combating you at some point. I feel like it's just cat and mouse. It's always a game of cat and mouse. The top batters, you never really have a streak where you're like, oh, I'm right on top. I'm right on top here. It's not always like that. Sometimes you're on top, and sometimes they're on top. I think that's why they're great batters. And if you look at Kohli, man, I've stood in the field where he scored 200. And I'm like, man, when is this guy going to get out? And but there are other times where you'll nick him off reasonably early, and you're like, well, yes, I won that one. Then the next game, he might score 100. Same thing with Root. Same thing with Williamson. Same thing with anyone. I would say a real awkward customer, without hate to admit this, but David Warner, he hits in weird areas. David Warner. I feel like I've had some success against him too, but I feel like he's also had success against me. So it's always been interesting bowling at him. Just hits the ball in funny areas. He's a little bit unorthodox, and I felt that way from the time that I bowled at him. But it was always exciting for me to wanna face players like him, all the best. I just wanted to play against the best players, and I always say to myself, well, then if it's not your day, then so be it. The sun will come up the next day. But if it is your day, make the most of it.
And with bowling and your craft, you've only got to come up with that one magical moment, and everyone's mood changes. So that's the joy, I guess, of being a bowler. Okay, here's a piece of trivia for you. You might know, hopefully you know the answer. Who's your most dismissed batter in Test cricket? It's not a trick question. It's just if you know, you know. If you don't, all good.
I actually don't know.
Stuart Broad. And here in Australia, we're very happy for you. Very, very happy for you, given the rivalry. No, 10 times in 12 tests you got rid of Stu.
Don't get me involved in that. I actually don't mind. I don't mind Brody. Brody, if you're listening, we're all good. Don't worry. Don't know how you are with Sam or Australia, but that's for you to deal with.
No, we're good with the reason he rolls us up the most is because sometimes he acted like an Australian cricketer. So yeah, anyway. But there was another great record that he had, Rohit Sharma, 7 times in 8 tests. So here's a guy that's had amazing longevity and success in all formats of the game. I won't say the word bunny. and you won't say the word bunny, but is there anyone you felt extra confident against that you had a plan and you knew, yeah, it could work?
No comment. No comment.
Especially where you are. Fair enough too.
No comment.
Fair enough too.
I think,
okay, back to the
at the end of the
nets.
day,
Sorry.
just to say something, I think
going.
it's about respect. You have to respect players as cricketers. Although you're competitive with them, it's about respect. As you grow older and you get more mature, you realize that we all have respect for one another because everyone's been through adversity. Everyone's had to bounce back, and that's the respect. Especially if you've been doing it, for a good amount of years. That's where you start to have respect for players, and you can have these talks and just as Virat came in, that's the respect that you have as players, having played with each other against and with each other for such a long time, and knowing what it takes, because it's not all blue skies and roses. Sometimes you have to get in the trenches, and you really have to find ways to get on top of your game. And that's why I don't want to say any words that are synonymous to a rabbit. Basically,
Fair enough,
but
mate.
it's all about respect.
Got you. And I get that Virat has respect for you because you can send him down at 150 at his ribcage. So I'd have respect for someone like that next time I'm going to go play them as well. But it's more than that. I get it. It's a deeper meaning than that. We talked before about AB and you in the nets. Has one of your teammates ever come out and say, "Far out, what was that? What was that? What were you trying to get out of that?" Because I didn't feel that I was entirely comfortable facing you today in the nets. What I'm asking is, sometimes Mitchell Starc tells the story sometimes that he went in and let out a bit of frustration on his teammates because he needed to do that to get into the frame of mind to prepare. Was that you, or you got too much respect for your teammates as well?
Yeah, respect doesn't mean that you're not competitive, but I think not really, not in the nets as much. Not necessarily. There's nothing that really stands out to me when it comes to the nets. Sometimes you'd actually say, "No, screw this, I'm running in here." Especially if a batter's like trying to slog you everywhere, and you're like, you just want to get one back at him, but I can't think of anything significant.
Mate, can you explain this to us? What it is at the moment in Test cricket? What is the code about bouncing other fast bowlers? Is there any kind of code at the moment, or is it?
No, that's disappeared.
Just a free for all.
That's disappeared. It's gone out the window.
Why?
Oh, because I think it's about victory, right? You wanna win, and you wanna win as quick as possible. So I don't think a few half volleys before the bounce is gonna work. Maybe it's the other way around: the bouncer and then the half volley.
And you're okay with that?
Well, I'm okay with that, especially if I get it. Because if I get it, then I have to give it back, unfortunately.
So you're not the instigator, but you're one of those. You won't start the fight, but you'll try and finish it.
Yeah, I actually have a funny story. We're playing
we love these.
in Perth. I don't know if Mitchell Starc will remember. But there was big talks of him bowling 160 before we got there in 2016. And Australia had us on the ropes. And so I'm walking in on day one. I think it might have been just before or just after tea. Walking in at 8 or 9. And Mitch Starc is coming around the wicket, and he's sort of bowling bounces, and it was quick. And what I was trying to do, I just said to myself, okay, just try and watch the ball and react. And he bowled a bouncer that I just couldn't get out the way of, and ended up just throwing my hands up and sort of just hit my glove and landed in no man's land. And the next over, I said to myself, you have to try and take it on. You might be late on it, but just take it on. And I tried to take it on, and I remember just spliced it, and the ball went nowhere. But I got a single, and I got over to the other side, and I said to Stark, I said, I'm gonna give it back to you. I'm gonna give it back to you. What do you an insert word here? I'm gonna give it back to you. Insert word here. And the next over, so he sort of just like smiles at me, and then walks back to his mark. And Peter Neville was keeping, and he says, "Not if you get him first, Starkey." I thought that was pretty smart.
Unlike an Australian wicketkeeper to voice an opinion or have a few words from behind the stumps. So yeah, good times. Okay. To the question I kind of led you into before the break, or let you know that I was going to ask. So during team parties at Punjab, you don't get too wild, but you enjoy yourselves. Hey, life's there to be enjoyed. The shirts come off. So what's all this about? And does Hads get the shirt twirling above his head to the music that's going?
Yeah. Oh, where do I even start? Yeah. I think I can't remember what happened, but we just had a few days off, and we were having a few beverages. I was having some water and iced tea. Don't know what everyone else was having, but by the end of the night, everyone's shirts off. I think it was just a bit hot. India can get a bit hot.
Okay. Humid, yeah.
And we were having a really good time, and Hads had left by that time. It would have, but it's not too late, It's not too late to see whether he'll get hot if we do have a few more iced teas. But Nathan Ellis was right in there as well.
Yeah.
So good times. You have to have a laugh.
No, and I'm sure Nathan Ellis is appreciating, given where he's coming from in his career. He's playing grade cricket in Sydney, goes to Tasmania, makes a name for himself, international, in the IPL. Shirts off for Nathan Ellis for sure. You got to, as I say, you got to enjoy life. So that's the thing, mate. We've really appreciated your insights into your career, how Test cricket and international cricket is at the moment, and you've made friends down here with this chat, and we're going to wish you really well for the rest of the IPL, but also at the World Cup. And I'll go as far to say, if it's not Australia, now I want South Africa to make that breakthrough, mate, and win a trophy, just for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the talk, man. Do it again sometime. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.